A crisis that has shaken the foundation of our education system and left over 22 lakh students in a state of absolute despair. For the first time in its history, the NEET-UG exam has been fully cancelled following a massive paper leak scandal. What was supposed to be a fair gateway for future doctors has turned into a criminal playground. To talk more on this, I am being joined by Nitin Kukreja, the Chief Executive Officer of the Allen Career Institute, India's leading education platform. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me. Let me ask you, why is this happening again and again?
I think because we haven't fixed the fundamental issues. I think the solution has been staring at us for quite some time now. It happened in 2024. There was an expert committee set up. The recommendations are in place. I think the implementation is all that is pending, and that's why it's happened again.
But what are your views on it? Where are the gaps, sir? Can you just take us through?
Look, I think it's a very strange situation that the NTA conducts the JEE exam and conducts it in a manner which goes through glitch-free and doesn't cause the hue and cry that has happened over here, or doesn't face the issues that have happened over here. And at the same time, a NEET exam ends up facing such issues. Now let's break down the problem into pieces, right?
Yes.
The NEET exam is a physical exam, one-time pen and paper. As per the NTA's own admissions from a couple of years back, more than 2 lakh people, if I remember the number correctly, around 2,15,000 people are involved in the conduct of the exam, which just means that you can face the risk of a leak from anywhere. Bad apples can be anywhere, and you can face the risk of a leak right from the inception stage to the last mile stage. Whereas in a JEE main exam, which I think about 14 lakh people, students gave, it's broken down into pieces. It's a computer-based exam, and it happens in stages. So if the same methodology of a JEE exam is implemented in a NEET exam, it's better for the system, it's more foolproof, but it's also better for the student. And let's just talk about the student point of view for a minute, okay? I'm a student who's taken physics, chemistry, maths versus a friend who's taken physics, chemistry, bio. The physics, chemistry, math student is getting 2 attempts at the paper, maybe doesn't want to appear for a very difficult exam because doesn't want to go to the IITs and only wants to give an NIT, doesn't have to face a very difficult exam. But if I'm a physics, chemistry, bio student, I have to go through a one-time single exam. It can be very difficult, even though I don't want to go to the most premium of institutes. And I face this huge risk of a leak. So you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone by just implementing that solution, which is staring us in the face, as I said earlier, by just replicating the JEE mechanism and the staged exam for NEET itself.
Absolutely. You know, a lot of people say,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Kartik.
A lot of people say that it happens in NEET, never happens with the UPSC, never happens with the NDA papers. Why does it happen with the NEET-UG? Can you shed some light on it so the people understand there are different processes at play? There are ways in which different exams are being conducted.
Correct. So as I said, and I'll take the example of JEE again. The JEE exam is 14 lakh people appear for it. Okay. It's broken down into 2 parts, JEE mains and JEE advanced. If you appear for the JEE main, do well in that, you can go to the NITs and other colleges. But if you want to go to an IIT, you appear for the JEE advanced exam. Okay. Now the first phase of the exam is computer based. Whereas now compare it with NEET. It's a physical pen and paper exam single time. Now, if a leak happens in JEE, first of all, it may be limited to that sliver which was appearing for JEE main in that compartment itself. The JEE main happens in various sessions, session 1, session 2, over many days. So even if a leak happens, it is not spread over the entire population. It is spread only a sliver of the population, and you conduct that retest then and there. The risk of a leak itself is mitigated. Unless you've hacked into the server, and I'm sure you'll leave a digital footprint when you hack into a server, the risk of the leak itself is minimal. Whereas if you conduct a physical exam with 2 lakh people, as I said earlier, the possibility, the probability of a leak is going to be so much more higher. So all you need to do is replicate what the JEE way is. 14 lakh people already give the exam. Here 23 lakh people are giving the exam. Just replicate the piece. It's better for students as well as better for the system in terms of the kind of issues that we're facing right now.
So, Nitin, where is the reticence coming from? I mean, so you are part of this field, you are CEO of this very illustrious organization, which is in this business of education. Then where is the reticence coming? Everyone knows where the problem is. Then why the reticence, if that's the correct word?
I don't have an answer for that, Kartikeya. I think that's a question for the NTA on why it hasn't been implemented. The strange thing is that these recommendations were put forth after the 2024 issues as well. So it's a matter of implementation now.
What sort of a feedback you are getting from students? We should not forget that, this is a crisis not of numbers. This is a crisis of people's expectations, people's career, people's desire, and that to a young, impressionable mind.
Look, the first reaction always was shock and disappointment of and how can something like this happen? People have a certain faith in the system, and the immediate goal has to be for the NTA is to restore the faith in the system. I think beyond that, it's now getting into acceptance to say we have to get and appear for another exam, and hopefully it's done sooner rather than later. Because for every student, it's not just a matter of the exam. There's also a counseling process and an eventual admission into the medical college and the start of the journey to being a doctor. I think now everybody is in wait mode and saying, okay, when can I know more and when will I have to reappear again? On our part, what we are telling students is, look, cut out the external noise. Take that you had one big mock test that happened and take this as an opportunity to improve your second shot at it. Even when it comes to the JEE exams, the first shot is in session 1. Many students, 80% plus students, take the session 2 shot at it as well. So take it as another shot and try and improve your performance. It's an opportunity rather than a crisis that is before you. Treat it as an opportunity, but that's the consolation or the strength we are trying to provide to students.
Absolutely, but in the larger educational context, where there's great pressure in this country for students to pass exams, and when this sort of a tragedy happens, it erodes the trust of a young person in the ability of the state to be fair, ability of the state to be impartial, and ability of the state to protect honest and bright people. I don't see this leak as an anomaly. I see it as a failure of the state, because state is failing young people. So you at the helm of that organization where you interact with students, how do you deal with expectations when things like these happen?
Look, you're right, the faith gets shaken, and I think that's the first immediate reaction. But you have to believe that something good will come out of this, not just at the student side in terms of one more opportunity to improve your performance, but a better system being put into place, which we're all hoping for does get implemented now.
Absolutely. But coming back to the real issue, this education mafia, I mean to say, how does it survive? This is not like 1967, there was a policy and the, gold smuggling exploded, because, we were dealing with a lot of economic instability. You must have read in papers, the government didn't want, people to hoard gold, but, people still hoarded gold. But here in this context, where, demand also creates this sort of deviance. What is making this mafia survive? Education mafia, it's such a contradictory, education as a word and mafia. How do they survive? I mean, so where you are in this business, where does this rot start?
Look, I wouldn't paint everybody with the same brush. In every profession, there will be some bad apples. And I think those bad apples have to be identified, and in this case, given exemplary punishment so that nobody dares to do it again. But look, the root cause of it is the fact that ultimately there is a scarcity. You gave the gold example. Scarcity leads to people trying to make a quick buck in not the right manner. At the end of the day, there are about 65,000 government medical college seats. There are about 17,500, 18,000 IIT seats. And the number of applicants in India will always be higher than that. So whenever there is going to be a demand supply mismatch like this, and it's fair that people have the aspiration to become a doctor or an engineer. The great thing in this country is that even in the smallest of small towns, you can have that aspiration and you have an avenue to fulfill that aspiration. And that is the role that the education industry plays and should play. But when there is a mismatch, there will be some bad apple trying to make a quick buck out of it.
Do you think that, we need laws like China? I had made those notes. In China, it is considered almost like akin to Deshdroh. If you leak a paper, and they have a jail term of 7 years. In Bangladesh and South Korea, in case you leak a paper, they have a jail term of 10 years. 10 years, very, very strong. Many countries, there are harsh punishment for it. You don't get away with it. Do you think we need that sort of a legal deterrence? You will not get away with it.
I completely agree. I think people should not be allowed to get away with it. And I'm again saying exemplary punishment. Now, whether it's 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever is considered exemplary should be put in place and should be implemented in this case.
Absolutely. And, to my viewers, people should understand 23 lakh children, and the entire process takes 400, 500 crore. This has been estimated because this requires a nationwide logistics. And if this system fails, we are not only failing a batch, we are failing young minds of this country. And I'll take a closing statement from Nitin on this. Sir, the exam will take place. I'm not saying that the leaks will not ever take place. Do you think that the time has really come for the government to implement everything that has been decided and share with the stakeholders that this is how we are going to reform the system? There is no other way. You cannot wait at all now.
Absolutely. Look, I think the immediate priority is to get the re-exam done. But in parallel or almost immediately after has to move to saying how we are going to do this in the future, and in a manner that faith and credibility that every student has and every young mind has and every parent has is restored. The solution is before us, just needs to be implemented.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Kukreja, for joining me in a very, I would say, honest conversation, because ultimately, the proof of the pudding is in eating it. And if there's a leak again, it will show that the government, despite making tall promises, is really not keen to reform the entire system, which people have been asking for again and again.